Lindsey Graham calling the terrorists the Taliban dream team. But listen to what Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid just said.
Guantanamo has been there far too long. And I think that we should get them out of there as quick as we can. We've been held up from doing that by the Republicans, not wanting any of them to be tried here in the United States, even though our record here is really quite good. So I'm glad to get rid of these 5 people, send them back to Qatar.
So how does Senator Lindsey Graham respond to that? He joins. Nice to see you, sir. And Senate Majority Harry Reid says he's glad to see the 5 go.
Well, Harry Reid is disconnected from reality at a level that I even didn't understand until he said that. I wish they would have died in jail. There's not one shred of evidence that letting them go was based on the fact they're no longer dangerous. These people were let go for political reasons. They were traded for Sergeant Bergdahl. The likelihood of an American citizen being kidnapped in the future by a terrorist organization in light of this decision goes through the roof. These people will go back to the fight. As I understand the terms of the agreement, they're required to stay in Qatar for 1 year. They will go right back to Afghanistan. They were political and military leaders of the Taliban. There's no evidence, Senator Reid, that these people have renounced terrorism. Quite the opposite. They're now heroes.
Why, there are going to be some classified hearings.
Yes,
and I have
tomorrow.
Terrible objections. I mean, like, of these classified hearings. You know, why can't the rest of us know? I mean, if there were, you should have an open hearing, in my view. If something really genuinely comes up classified, then you close the doors.
Absolutely.
I mean, so why don't we know more about this deal?
Well, they're starting out in a classified setting, but we'll go public. I just think it's politics. I think the Senate Democrats don't want to have an open hearing. These are the same people that insisted on an opening hearing when it came to detainee abuse. Remember Guantanamo Bay abuses. Remember Abu Ghraib in Iraq. We had an opening hearing. We put all of our dirty laundry out there for people to see. Now when it comes time to this release, they want to do it behind closed doors. That will not stand. I've been a military lawyer for 31 years. These people are not prisoners of war. They're unlawful enemy combatants, members of a terrorist organization. The war is not over when we leave Afghanistan. We're fighting al-Qaeda, their affiliates, and people who provide material support like the Taliban. These people will go back to the fight. President Obama has put Americans at risk all over the planet, and these people will go back to Afghanistan as sure as night follows day.
All right, Ed O'Keefe of the Washington Post just published an article online which says that this discussion about 5 detainees being released goes back to 2011 with Congress.
Yes, and every time the president asked, we said hell no. Panetta said no. Gates said no. Dianne Feinstein said no. Lindsey Graham said no. Why would anybody in their right mind release the leaders of the Taliban with American blood on their hand who have sworn to go back to the fight, to realign with al-Qaeda, to attack our country yet again? And when the president says one of the principles that he follows closely is to never leave a man behind on the battlefield, this is the same president who was missing in action on the night of the Benghazi attack. This is the same president who never picked up a phone and intervened in Libya to try to get our rescue team out of the airport in Benghazi so they could go help the people under siege. This is the same president who will not account for his time during the attack of September the 11th, 2012. So if you're really that dedicated to protecting our people, come clean with what you did during the Benghazi attack, Mr. President.
All right, Senator, we also want to ask you about the accusation that President Obama intentionally bypassed Congress to release the 5 Taliban prisoners back in 2008. Presidential candidate Obama promised he would not bypass Congress with an executive action called signing statements. Here it is.
Do you promise not to use presidential signage to get your way?
Yes. Congress's job is to pass legislation. The president can veto it or he can sign it. But what George Bush has been trying to do is part of his effort to accumulate more power.
Yes, that's a good idea.
He's been saying, well, I can basically change what Congress passed by attaching a letter saying, I don't agree with this part or I don't agree with that part. I'm going to choose to interpret it this way or that way. That's not part of his power. But this is part of the whole theory of George Bush, that he can make laws as he's going along. I disagree with that. I taught the Constitution for 10 years. I believe in the Constitution, and I will obey the Constitution of the United States. We're not going to use signing statements as a way of doing an end run around Congress. All right?
Senator, that's exactly his justification, that he says it's a signing statement that gives him the power to ignore that 30-day provision.
Well, you don't have awards for hypocrisy, but if you did, he would win in 2014. The one thing about George W. Bush, if he were president, these guys would still be in jail. They should be in jail. Everything the candidate Obama complained about, he did. But here's what he did. He bypassed a process where the intelligence community could give input, where the Congress could have a say, because he wanted the result. He wanted last week to be a great week. We're going to pull all of our troops out by 2016, not realizing that empowers our enemies and puts our nation at risk. And I got the one captive back. He thought everybody would be cheering, but when we see these 5 guys on TV, it reminds every American that radical Islam is our enemy, that he's let our enemy out. They're going to come back to killing Americans just as sure as we're talking about this tonight. The president is disconnected from the fact that radical Islam is a threat to our way of life.
Well, his excuse is, or at least we're understanding, is that they said it was his health at first, was the emergency to avoid the law, to rely on the signing statement.
A video caused a protest. I guarantee you that they had made up their mind to do this in the same week.
They or the president?
The president, that he wanted 2 stories about Afghanistan. I got the one guy that the Taliban have in captivity back. Now I'm getting all of our troops out by 2016. They consciously put these 2 things together. It's blowing up in their face.
That's a serious accusation.
Well, I think it's true. There is no other conclusion. There is no intel to suggest these guys were now safe to release. I haven't seen any evidence at all from the intelligence community that the guy's life was threatened. We get briefings all the time about what's going on. I haven't seen any information that Bergdahl's life was threatened.
All right, was Bergdahl, clarify this week, is Bergdahl held by the Taliban or the Haqqani network? Because we dealt with the Taliban.
Yeah, well, the Taliban insisted that their 5 leaders be released, so clearly we were negotiating with the Taliban. I don't know who had physical custody of him, but he was not a prisoner of war. These 5 people are not prisoners of war. We're not fighting Afghanistan or the people of Afghanistan. We're fighting terrorist organizations.
Well, what we don't know
enemy combatants. And what the president decided to do is ignore a process that's been in place to keep us all safe. He got the outcome he wanted. He bypassed the intelligence community. He bypassed the Department of Defense in terms of the risks these guys proposed.
Unlawful?
I think unwise, probably unlawful, but at its very minimum, it stinks to high heaven. He's put our nation at risk. What is the likelihood that other families are going to experience terrorist attacks with their loved ones being overseas now because of this decision? Much greater this week than it was last week.
Senator, thanks, sir.
Thank you.